Welcome to Don't Encourage Us, the podcast where we talk about the big ideas and fiction projects of all different kinds. Books, movies, TV shows, video games, nothing's off limits. And make sure you stay away from those like and subscribe icons. So today we're going to talk about Top Gun Maverick.
Yes, the classic Tom Cruise film from 2022.
That's right, way back. By the time people are listening to it, they barely remember. So are we gonna spoil this this movie?
Probably. Yeah.
Is it possible to spoil this movie? Is there enough that you wouldn't anticipate that you could actually consider it a spoiler?
This may be the most paint by numbers movie I've seen in a really, really long time. Mm-hmm. But I was highly entertained for some very odd reason. It's simple. It's got everything. It's
simple. Yeah, no,
what you'd expect.
It's a money-making formula for sure. So before we dive into that, we should talk a little bit about whatever it is that we've been reading lately. Anything you've been reading or watching other than Top Gun Maverick?
Yes, I just finished a book called Lock Every Door, which was kind of Hitchcockian. It's about a girl who answers a help wanted ad. She ends up moving into an apartment building, like a really fancy apartment building facing Central Park. She's supposed to be apartment sitting, and they're paying her $4,000 a month to do it for 3 months.
Okay.
A lot of weird things start happening. The other apartment sitters who were there before, they've gone missing. So there's this big mystery going on.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes into that formulaic kind of plot where she's trying to figure out what's going on. At first, she thinks it might be some kind of cult that the people in the apartment are part of. Maybe it's a serial killer, etc. But it turns out, lo and behold, spoiler alert, in case you go want to read this book, that it's actually old, very rich people who are looking for organ donors. So they lure these girls in there, mostly girls, young girls, and they usually don't have families, or, they're having money issues, or they don't have a place to stay. So they get them in there. And then one of the guys who's a doctor, he harvests the organs, and the people who are living in the apartment actually get brought down to the basement where they do these organ transplants.
Huh.
So it's kind of interesting, but the characters are very cookie cutter. But I give it a 3 out of 5 stars overall as a thriller.
It sounds like a prequel to Get Out.
It's kind of like a Get Out or Rosemary's Baby, like that sort of.
Yeah, we're going to use your body.
Yeah. But once you know what's going on, it kind of devolves very quickly into just she's going to escape. They end up tearing the building down at the end. There's a big scandal, obviously. All these people were involved that were rich and famous. At the end.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Does she run up and down the stairs several times?
She does that a lot. She uses the elevator a lot during fires, which she's not supposed to do, but she does anyway.
Oh, no. Unacceptable.
Yeah. How about you?
A bunch of stuff. I watched the pilot episode of Reacher, the TV series. I think it might have been a series of books. I didn't look it up. I think they were just sort of your generic badass loner kind of series of books. And Tom Cruise made 2 movies. The second one is probably the worst Tom Cruise movie that I've seen in a long time. Really, really bad, like borderline unwatchable. I wouldn't even recommend it if you're curious how he could be in such a bad movie. But this pilot for the TV show was good. It stars Alan Ritchson, who previously was on the TV show Titans, which I don't even know. HBO is the only place I know where it streams. But yeah, so he's bulked up a little bit, and it's a lot of kick-ass action. It's good. It's really good.
Nice. Well, I like those kind of movies or shows. I saw The Gray Man on Netflix with Ryan Gosling.
What do you think? Russo brothers? Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I read the book, and I really liked the book, and I thought the movie, I didn't think it was exactly like the book. I thought the book was a lot better, but for an action movie, I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, great. I almost watched that. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
So I also watched Bullet Train.
I started reading that.
Oh, there's a book? Okay,
There's a book.
Yeah.
What do
Okay.
you think?
Well, you have to watch it because it is a companion film to The Lost City.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah. So The Lost City, which we talked about, starring Brad Pitt and some other people. And then they made Bullet Train, also starring Brad Pitt and some other people.
We should plug the podcast episode, right? In the description. If you missed it.
Yes.
There's a podcast episode around this
We should
topic.
put the link in there. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of interesting connections. I don't want to spoil it since you haven't seen it. But it's worth checking out.
Yeah.
It wasn't my favorite movie. I was a little disappointed. I thought the trailer looked great. How's the book?
I haven't gotten that far into the book yet. So far, so good. Probably only 20 pages in, 25 pages in. So we'll see. Yeah,
I'd be curious to hear similarities or differences, because often a book and a movie, they can be very, very different. And this one had such a particular visual and storytelling style that was, one could say, was a little disjointed at times, right? It was a lot of time jumps and montages inserted into the action, and some sort of weird, almost surreal, or a lot actually very surreal elements. So I'd be very curious how the novel compared in those regards.
Yeah, I'll let you know for sure.
Yeah, but definitely you should watch the movie at some point because of the connections to The Lost City.
I will definitely watch it. Yeah, I think I'll read the novel and then watch the movie. I saw the movie was available. I almost rented it because I was like, I don't know. I could probably pick up another novel that's really similar to this one and not really lose too much. I like those kinds of books, though. Those assassin books, the loner books, the lone assassin or the CIA guy or whatever. Oh, they're exciting.
Yeah, well, Reacher has some things in common with that, but the tone is very different. Reacher is very grounded. It reminds me a lot of the TV show The Incredible Hulk from the 80s, because it's basically the same premise. Like the Hulk goes to small towns and solves crimes.
And this is kind of the same deal. Like every episode's a new crime, or
it seems like they're going to do the more modern version of that, which is like a season is a crime.
I see.
I think that's what they're going to do. But the big difference between this one and the Incredible Hulk is that the guy who plays Jack Reacher, Alan Ritchson, is much, much bigger than the Incredible Hulk. So
wow,
that would be the key difference.
A little juiced up, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Hulk had the kind of muscle that this Jack Reacher has to throw at a problem.
Or pharmaceuticals.
I mean, I don't know how he does that. That guy's in his 40s. Maybe he lives in an apartment building where they harvest adrenal glands.
Yeah, exactly.
Testicles. And implant them.
He's got his neighbor's testicles. That's how he does it. Has anyone seen The Rock lately?
He's probably getting some surgery. Testicle implants, getting a sixth set. Maybe The Rock will throw us a reaction video, big giant eyebrow.
With a thumbs up. This whole podcast explodes. You get 1 million subscribers. Now we got to do another episode.
I don't know if we get a thumbs up. Great. All right. So should we dive into Top Gun Maverick?
Sure.
Let's dive in. So this was your choice. What made you pick this movie?
I wanted to see just an escapist type of action movie that was, throwback to those 80s movies. And I'd heard such great things about it. So I figured, it's definitely something to check out because I really did like Top Gun when I watched it. I haven't seen it in a long, long time. So there were some things in the movie that I was like, oh yeah, I had forgotten that part, like the piano playing. And then when they did the flashback, I was like, oh, okay, I see. It's like, why was he playing that song? It's like, it's such a weird song to be playing that everybody knows. But I had forgotten that was a throwback. But yeah, I'd heard really good things, that the action scenes were amazing, that the way they shot the planes was super realistic. So I had to see it. because I really like those types of escapist type movies when they're done well.
And what do you think? What's the verdict?
Thumbs up. I enjoyed it. At first, I thought, this is going to kind of drag on for a little bit. I can see where this is going, but even the fact that I knew where it was going didn't really matter.
Yeah.
The fact that everything kind of just lined up perfectly in the movie, like every single sequence was, all right, I pretty much know what's going to happen next. It's like I kind of thought about it like those cop movies where like, oh, the bad boy cop, he blew up 20 cop cars and destroyed half the city. Give us your badge. And now we're going to give it back, a couple scenes later, so you can come back and save the day. It was like that with a little bit of Star Wars mixed in.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Good. So you're satisfied?
Yeah. I honestly don't think I'd watch it again. I talked to a friend of mine. He's like, oh, I've already seen it twice. I loved it. I saw it in the theaters and I've watched it on TV, but I don't know. I think at that point, it's just so predictable that it's not worth watching. Would you watch it again?
So as you know, I watch it on my projector. So it's a big giant image that fills an entire wall. And I got new speakers that have a little more bass. So it's visually really amazing. And so the action sequences weren't really like burned into my brain so much that I don't think I would enjoy them again. And the story, the romance and the character development, it was fairly spread out and quick. It's just a lot of Tom Cruise smiling, and what is it, Jennifer Connelly?
Yeah.
A lot of her close-ups of her still gorgeous face. So I don't think, I think if I gave it like a few months, 6 months or a year or 2 years or something like that, I think I could come back and just re-experience it, having not thought about it really much since the last time I watched it. You know what I mean? I think I could just put it on and it would just be like a fun kind of adventure. And maybe I'd notice some more details about what it was like to really fly in the planes, things like that. So I think I could watch it again, but I think I'd give it a little bit of a break.
Yeah. I think those action scenes were really, really well done though. Like, I don't know how they actually shot some of those scenes, right? Where the planes are like flipping upside down, one on top of the other. Do you know anything about the way they actually did the effects for that? Was it all, practical effects, or was there a lot of like green screen that they used or computer generated?
I think it was mostly just footage from the last film, right? Then
they threw in there, especially the end. Yeah. Spoiler alert with the F-14 that was just ready to go, fully fueled, just sitting there.
Why wouldn't it do with a museum piece? If you have fifth generation fighters, whatever that means, then you want to make sure.
I think they're really good ones.
Some first generation fighters.
Is that the daily driver? Do they just pick up the pilots with that plane, drive them to the runway, and then they get into those fifth generation planes? Is that what that thing is?
Maybe they feed the old ones to the new ones every so often. Just push it into the hangar and let it eat it.
Where they just walk out onto the runway. One of my favorite scenes. Don't mind us.
Okay, we're running.
Yeah. We're headed to work. What did you think of the relationship between Rooster and Maverick?
I thought it was good. I was thinking a lot about when we pitch, or when I pitch, speaking for myself, ideas for this podcast. And we talk about, building a concept or building a story that you would film and would be a movie or a TV show or whatever. And I often underdevelop heart. I don't always think about as much about those relationships. I always assume, I think of it as something that develops as you dive into the details of the story, right? You have a general sense of a relationship between characters. And then as you're writing dialogue and you're writing scenes and you're getting a sense of the characters, then the complexities and the heart of their relationship really manifests. But I think a lot of successful producers, writers, directors, they really maybe don't, it's not fair to say start with that, but that is an important part of their initial elevator pitch. So they come in really strong with, oh, and here's why it matters, right, to them. Not because it's cool or interesting and plays off of other things. It matters because these two characters need to have this cliche relationship, and that's what's going to resonate with Johnny moviegoer on Friday date night or whatever. So, I think this was that what you're talking about, the relationship between Maverick and Rooster was the core of the pitch for this. I think it's what probably hooked a lot of the key players involved. And I think it was fine. They certainly didn't overdevelop it. I think that's the fairest way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just enough tension to have them both kind of fulfill their role.
Yeah. Like Maverick is very much the star of this film. And Rooster, I hate to say this, but feels a little tacked on in places, obviously not in the spotlight for a lot of the movie. If I was approaching this film, I think I would have made the mistake of trying to beef up that role and give that character more nuance. And it would have come across as an attempt to pass the torch and keep doing Top Gun sequels with Rooster as the main character. But that would have been a mistake. This version is much better, just keeping Rooster as, I don't want to say two-dimensional. He's borderline two-dimensional. That bit about like he's too hesitant. He doesn't react. And coincidentally, that's exactly Maverick's deal from the previous film, is like, if you think you're dead, So having that be like Rooster's one fault, other than he's upset about his parents dying, and he's got some misplaced anger, I guess, but not really. It's not truly misplaced, but it's also not fair to the main character who we all sympathize with. So he has two things to overcome by the end of the film, and that's it. It doesn't feel like a human being to me. But again, I would have made the mistake of trying to develop that character
really
more.
Beef it up. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And that would have been wrong.
It's tough with an ensemble piece like this, I think, because you've got to introduce so many characters so quickly, and you have to have the audience latch onto all of them, or at least put them in their, specific box, so by the time the action culminates. Okay.
So if you believe this is an ensemble piece, name characters for me.
Bob.
Okay, good.
Good. Penny.
You got Bob. Okay.
Payback.
Penny.
But you know why I know these names? Because at the end of the movie, the credits, where they showed me their names again. So you got me. Maybe it's not an ensemble piece, but maybe it's a movie with a lot of different characters in it, okay? And they're not very important, and Maverick is clearly the most important character in the whole thing. But my point was really that each one has to have their own, even small thing that you can kind of say, oh, that guy's kind of rebellious, like the main guy, Hangman or whatever. What did that guy really do, right? He's kind of cocky. That's about it, Yeah, he's good with a toothpick. Yeah, really good with a toothpick and whatever. They're all good at playing that beach football or whatever, right? But yeah, I think in a movie like this, it's hard, I think, to balance those action sequences, right, that everyone wants to see with like an actual plot that people can actually hold on to. So it just gets really watered down. Yeah, 100%. Right. Like, I get your point, and I don't want to come across as criticizing this film a lot, because that's totally unfair. They made a lot of choices. They had limited time, and I think they largely made the right choices. So, none of this is a criticism, but just an observation. The fighter pilots, the younger generation, were very much like, there are 3 or 4 of them and the rest. Exactly how it ended up at the end, right? If you would have looked at the movie from that perspective, you'd been like, oh yeah, I know who's going to get chosen. Can you imagine Rooster's not chosen? He's like, ends up on the runway. It's like, go, like go Maverick, go. Good luck, Maverick and Titan. And Titan Payback. And Lady Gaga. And go get him. And market segments. And I understand why you left me behind. Don't worry about it. All right, see ya. It's like 5 pilots or what? Yeah, 5 other pilots that you hadn't seen up to that point, except they were in the back rows. How funny would that be? Everyone in the front can step away now, and they all clear out. And it's like six completely new or five completely new characters. This is Ace. This is what are the ones from what is that show called? American Gladiators? Whatever that Laser. They all come back.
Laser. You go, Laser.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's amazing.
I was wondering what happened to those guys. Can you imagine? They just put like flight suits on them and they're ready. They haven't been here training for the mission, but they got the gist of it. We just showed them a highlight reel. They're really good at jumping off high pedestals and hitting people with rubber mallets and joust.
Yeah, I really thought the movie would make a mistake and show like a close-up, not like a super close-up, but like nice face shots of all the people recruited for this program, all the former Top Guns. But at no point do I recall them even really giving you a good look at about half of the people in that space. I know they were in frame on occasion, but it was almost like their faces were fuzzed out. Like there was always somebody else doing something. There wasn't even like they're all just writing notes, like a panning shot, right? I recall. It was as if they don't exist. Like if you were an actor in that movie who played that role, where you were one of the Top Guns that they recruited back, and you're in the classroom, right? Then I think it would probably shock you that literally no one would recognize you.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's true.
Like biggest movie of the year, and no one could pick you out of a crowd.
Yeah, because it would go like Tom Cruise to Miles Teller to that Hangman guy, and then back to like whatever the conflict was, right? That was it. You're right. Yeah. The rest was just filler seats, almost like they were there, but not really there. So at the end, when they chose everyone for the mission, I remember at one point I was like, wait, who's that guy again? Oh, yeah, he's the guy they mentioned when they all have their masks on, their oxygen masks in the planes. Like they're yelling for that guy, but I don't know who that guy really is until right now, which is kind of funny because they're the elite five that are chosen for this mission. Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. It's really weird. I liked how they did the simulator tracking in the classroom and cutting out to the actual shots of where he was in real time or where they were in real time. I thought that was really well done. Instead of just simplifying it where they just put him in the plane, it gave you kind of a perspective, like how far along are they in the mission time-wise, and also along that course. So you kind of, after a while, once you understood what they had to do, fly low, go up, dip down, do the missile strike, and then take off out of that valley, that you really understood that sequence. And it became more and more, I think, exciting as they showed it, as they got better at it. I thought that was really well done.
That was excellent. Yeah, they actually mounted 5, I believe, IMAX cameras on the jets, and had the actors they had to act without really any communication with the director or the rest of the crew for these scenes, because they had cameras pointed at them, there were cameras pointed ahead, there were cameras mounted on the wings, et cetera, et cetera. So it was difficult to shoot, and it was very technically I think complicated. And they probably shot a ton of footage that they couldn't use, but they were committed to it, and they did it. And it really looks amazing. I'm sure it was expensive as hell, but it worked. Yeah, and I really like you were pointing out the representation of people's progress on the training course and in the actual mission. I think that was a wonderful visual addition that really did kind of suck you in. And it was cool to see like John Hamm react to Maverick running the course that last time to like prove it could be done. Like that's so much more engaging than if he's like looking out a window with like binoculars. Right.
And then he flies by and that's it.
Right. And somebody's like with us, sitting there going 30 seconds, 33 seconds. That's a new record, and you're like, oh, I guess that's good.
I think it gave it a lot of context, and the way they use that timer and that visuals, it was simple, in a way. It's just representation of the plane and the timer, but it works so well. And I also liked the scene that I really liked. It was really quick, was in the beginning to show how fast those planes were when he's about to do his Mach 10 or whatever, and he does that flyover and he like blows the roof off that shed. That was such a cool well framed shot that just kind of showed you how fast these planes are in relation to everything in the ground, from that perspective. It was cool.
Yeah, that was a one take.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they didn't intend for the shed roof to come off.
Really?
So they did it in one, and they wrecked the set. So they just took it, ran with it.
That's really cool that they were able to do that. Yeah, there were a lot of things about this movie that were, it's not a short movie. What is it? It's over 2 hours long? I think so. I think it might be 2:10.
2 hours, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Your internal clock is on it.
Amazing, right? It went by so quickly, which it's always a good thing in that type of movie. You were never really bored, Again,
no, moved
even
along.
though you knew what's going to happen at the end, but actually the end was kind of surprising. That whole him getting shot down into enemy territory and that helicopter showing up.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of cool because they never talked about helicopters at all. I just always assumed it was these fighter jets. And once he was down on the ground, maybe they'd stop chasing him for a moment or whatever. But when that helicopter showed up, that was really good.
Yeah. There was so much in this film. In my mind, it's almost a bad choice for a podcast episode.
I think
because
so.
for us, no,
yeah.
But it's, it's great to do it and we should talk about it. And I think it's great that we chose it, but it's challenging when I was trying to prepare because there's a lot where it's like, hey, remember that thing that happened? Yeah, that was pretty cool.
There's a lot of that.
That's kind of it, And you don't want to start tearing it a new one, which is unfair. Because, I could be like, oh, you remember the part when they're doing the canyon run for the final mission, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi says, "Use the Force."
Right.
But that's not fair. It's not like they invented it.
No,
I could point out that Rogue One or Rogue Squadron, the Patty Jenkins movie, got shut down, I think, on the heels of realizing they can't really top this film. That's going to be the comparison, right? Rogue Squadron is supposed to be about X-Wing and Y-Wing, like Star Wars pilots. So what are you going to make real X-Wings? How are you going to even remotely compare to this film? No, they shut it down. They already did Star Wars better than Star Wars, or as well as Star Wars, depending on how you want to look at, the 40-year difference or whatever it is. So it's difficult to get into this film. There's so many things about it that I went into it like not wanting to like. For example, not identifying the enemy. I thought, well, that's going to annoy me the whole time. They're going to keep saying like the bad guys, when the enemy does this, and they're going to show like nondescript uniforms, and you're never going to be able to tell anybody's ethnicity or anything at all. Like the terrain's going to be generic. And I figured I'd be sitting there going, this is dumb. Like, this is so unrealistic. But I got to be honest, it was the right choice. It would have been a distraction. It would have dated the film. It would have alienated some people. It would have created backlash that you don't need to create. It really honestly would have shifted away from where we very tightly stay the whole time, which is this group of pilots, and Maverick specifically as the son in that universe. So it's not even more broadly about the US military or anything else at all. It's just the most generic take on the whole bad guy thing, which I didn't think I would like. But in the end, like I said, good choice. To be honest, for all the little things that I'd be tempted to nitpick, this movie is a real triumph of Scientology.
Nice. Yeah.
What else can you say? I'm convinced.
This is a tough one. Actually, when I chose this movie, I thought maybe we're not going to have much to talk about if it's really good or we really enjoy it. But then I thought, what are the chances that I'm actually going to enjoy it this much and that I'm not going to be able to tear it apart in some way? But I'm having a really hard time as we're having this conversation, thinking like, that was so stupid the way that this happened. Yeah, because the whole thing is kind of like a series of cliches, right? But in a good way.
But it's a sequel to a film that it fits perfectly. Like it's what you should do.
Right. What else was he going to be doing?
Right.
It was kind of like his character. Where else would he be? Well, he would probably be doing the same shit. He's kind of irresponsible with his personal life. He's always pushing the limits. This movie would be really boring.
Gone to the Wind or something? Like, What are you
Instead
gonna
of
do?
Mach 10, now he's older. So he's like, guys, I can't do Mach 10. I can do like Mach 7. They're like, oh, the Top Gun program's over. All right, see you later. Roll credits. He's back on his motorcycle, and then you see his speedometer. It's like 55, and it says 65 on the speed limit.
And he pulls into Maverick's lawnmowers,
Yeah.
his business.
That's my old life.
Mhm.
I'm not like that anymore. He keeps telling
Right.
people, and he's really not like that anymore.
He's
And
got
then
3
the movie
kids.
becomes-
Yeah,
he's got his lawnmower business, and he's happy with that. It would be like a short film.
What are they
It would be
going
a
to
really
do?
funny
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
exactly. Like, there's just no, what do you send him to space? Like, okay, well, we need someone for the Mars mission, but the flight's going to be too difficult. Who do we get? Like, this is the only way to really do, not the only way. That's ridiculous. This is the simplest way to emphasize the point of the original film, recreate it, and just make another naval recruiting tool.
Yeah. A really good one at that. I got to give him credit.
Yeah, of course.
That Val Kilmer scene was really good, I thought.
Yeah, I actually did want to talk about that a little bit. I started watching the Val documentary about a year ago. I want to say it came out in 2021, so probably was a year ago. Popped up on Amazon as a, we think you'd like this or whatever recommendation. And I was like, well, I'll watch a couple minutes because I like Val Kilmer. I like a lot of the stuff he's done. Like, Tombstone, obviously one of the greatest Westerns ever made. He was Batman. That was a disaster. I was kind of curious about that. He did the original Top Gun. And there were a lot of notorious moments, or stories or rumors about the relationship between Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer during that film. And a lot of the other actors got pulled into that and stuff like that. So I was like, I'll watch a couple minutes and see what it's all about. And I ended up watching the entire thing. I just got sucked in and I was really interested. It was really well done. His son narrates a lot of it. Jack Kilmer, I believe his name is. And it was just an interesting, fairly candid history and update on like what it's like to be Val Kilmer, and it was sad in some ways. It was hopeful in some ways. So then I assumed that his work in the new Top Gun had already been shot because I think they wrapped on that film in like 2020 or 2021, depending on who you ask in the current lawsuit. But I'm assuming that was some of the prompt for this documentary, or maybe they just coincidentally started it and wrapped it around the same time. I don't know, but it's worth watching. It's really engaging in a lot of ways. If you're at all interested about the life of celebrities and some of the behind the scenes for these films.
Did he mention this Top Gun?
No, I don't believe so. If he did, it was brief, but I don't recall it at all. But it was pre the launch of the hype for this film. I mean, this movie, Maverick's been done forever. They could have launched it during the pandemic, but Tom Cruise, uncharacteristically developed an ego. And now I think he thought, how do I put this fairly? He wanted it to be a cinematic experience. I think he knew that it was a good product and he wanted to place it for success. He's a little bit old school now, Hollywood, which if you consider 80s and 90s old school, but I think he's still holding on to that cinema experience idea. And I would think probably most of the audience would consider that argument validated. At the time, again, another reason I went into this movie, maybe not totally open-minded, is because I thought during the pandemic, there was a lot of content. There was like a lot of gaps. But there was a lot of content that was done or nearly done that could have been released as a way to help people cope with the pandemic. Is like, hey, Hollywood, we're all about entertainment. We're going to step up and we're going to put some stuff out. But instead, I felt like they greedily held on to a lot of things. And again, I understand people still would have had to work and that would have put some people at risk and it would have done, there's arguments on both sides, but it still felt like it was largely motivated by a lot of executives being afraid to be the one who was wrong. And so they just erred on the side of, to me, what seemed like selfish choices, and Top Gun in my mind could have been released. Right. But I think Tom Cruise's point in part would have been, this film is not ideal for a streaming release. We're not dragging people back to theaters, so we'll just sit on it. So anyway, I think that was probably the right choice again.
Yeah. It's a very cinematic movie. That's pretty
it's loud, it's invigorating. I think some theaters did this thing where they had like a mini screen on the side to kind of create the illusion that you were in the plane or like moving.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was some feature that I heard about. I think it was pretty rare, but I think a friend of mine said he saw the movie in a theater like that. So a lot of really visual, intense, sequences intended to kind of grab you by the guts and jerk you around a little bit. Well, they shot the third act largely in the Cascade Mountains. There's a Top Gun course there, training course there. And they shot a lot of the film in that, where they were going, it was sort of the snowy peaks and the, river kind of weaving through the canyon.
Yeah.
That was shot in the Cascades. So that was kind of cool. The Dark Star. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Was a lot of it. So a lot of it were actual jets that they were filming.
Oh yeah,
live, like as they were flying. It wasn't like
minus a couple shots where something got blown up, like a jet got, ripped in half or something like that. I think a few of those were CGI, but minus that, I think it was almost all or entirely real jets doing real flying.
So were the actors in some type of studio though? Like
no, they were in planes.
So were they getting flown around? Like
I would assume, yeah. I think a lot of these shots where it looks like they're in the front, they're probably in the back, and it's just been altered to look like a one-seater. And then other times, probably some of it was shot on the ground, or I know I'm assuming the actors, from what I understand, did not learn how to fly all these planes, right? And I know Tom Cruise only flew the last plane. The one he actually owns that one with Jennifer Connelly. Like that's one of his planes, which I'm sure was a nightmare for the insurance underwriters.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Yeah,
Tom Cruise. Are you kidding me? God. So I think a lot of it was done. Almost all of it was done as practically as you possibly could, which was very challenging, no doubt.
It looked a lot like a Michael Bay film in a lot of ways.
Wow.
Or maybe I should say
that is mean. That is mean.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not such a hater on Michael Bay as I think a lot of people. I think he's really good at what he does. Again, if you like that popcorn type of everything blowing up action movie, that's your guy,
Yeah.
The original director for this was who? Ridley Scott? Or was it his
Tony
brother?
Scott.
Tony Scott, right?
Yeah, and he started production on a sequel to Top Gun, and I think it was 2013 or something like that. No, I can't remember. He's like 2010s, around then, early 2010s, or 20 teens, I guess, whatever. He started production on another Top Gun, and then he committed suicide.
Yeah, sad. But this guy seemed to have kept the look and feel of the original in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he previously did Oblivion with is that right? With Tom Cruise? Okay. So yeah, I don't know what prompted him to grab hold of this particular property, but maybe it's because he's worked with Tom Cruise and he just saw an opportunity. Yeah.
Maybe Tom Cruise just approached him, He's like, I like your visual style or whatever. I have this project, right?
I'm sure a lot of people think they know. I also imagine we'll never really know, because as much as the film itself, there's a lore, there are legends, there are stories that evolve around a film, and it's part of the film. It's part of marketing the film. It's part of, the celebrity status of everyone involved, right? As you create these stories that are part of a larger narrative. And it's, okay, maybe it was Tom Cruise, maybe he was dead set against it, maybe it was the director, or maybe someone else was involved.
Maybe it was just a studio, right? It was like, we have this property, we're gonna get some screenwriters to write a sequel. That's good.
Right. Yeah, they've been bugging Tom Cruise every year for 30 years to make another one, and this is the one that hit.
Right. Yeah, but it doesn't make for such an interesting story, right? I had free time. That's why I decided to do it.
Yeah. Here's the interesting story. Whenever a movie makes a lot of money, the actors get harassed to make a sequel until they die. So this is another example of that.
They called me so many times. I was just like, all right, fine. What is this movie again? Oh, Top Gun. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not Risky Business 2, which is probably going to come out soon.
Yeah, Tom Cruise bought a cruise line, Tom Cruise Cruise Line, and
Oh,
it wasn't
Tom's
doing
Cruises.
well. Tom's Cruise. He pulled his motorcycle 55 miles an hour and pulled it into Tom Cruise's.
And he wanted that to be the actual movie, like the Top Gun sequel. It's all about his cruise line, so he could tie it in with his real business.
But my point was, it fell through, and he needed money, so we got Top Gun Maverick.
He needed money.
I don't know. Maybe Scientology wants to form
Is really
their own country.
I'm down to my last 100 million, guys. Come on, help
Seriously,
me out.
all the lawsuits and bad
Right?
PR. They were like, "Look, Tom,
And the donations.
here's what we need you to do."
I've given $500 million in the past 5 years. What do you need me to do now? We need you to do Top Gun Maverick. That's what we need you to do. Forget about the cruise line and the lawnmower shop you've been trying to open for the past 3 years. We know you love lawnmowers. Can we do Top Gun on lawnmowers?
They've got a file. Like every time they have a PR disaster, it's like, all right, let's look through. Okay, Risky Business 2.
You're now 60 years old. Your parents are away. What do you do?
Oh, man. Hooray for Scientology.
Yes. That'll be an upcoming episode, our Scientology episode, which every great podcast has to have.
One of the many things that'll get us canceled.
Yes. Or personally erased. I was just joking, Scientology. It's all a joke.
He wasn't, though.
No. We'll edit that out. Don't worry. For our own safety.
So yeah, what else do you need to squeeze out of this film? Would you recommend it? Should people go see it?
I think people should go see this one. I think they should leave their expectations at the door, not overthink it.
Totally.
And just enjoy it for the ride that it is.
Get some popcorn, just sit there, enjoy it. It's fun. It's exciting. Oh, I was going to mention the Dark Star. I thought, man, that looks like a real plane. Is that a real plane? I'm sure it doesn't go Mach 1,000 or whatever stupid thing, but I was like, maybe it looks like a declassified or some sort of prototype or something. No, it's not. It's not a real plane. It was made up, but it was made up by people who make real planes. So I think Lockheed Martin actually put together a design. And the emblem for the group that makes the design is on the plane. That weird looking skunk that seems kind of random on the back of the plane.
I didn't notice it.
It's got a Pepe Le Pew on like the rear fin. That's their emblem, I guess. So they make all these like stealth-ish aircrafts or these like black, airplanes going back to, looked like the SR-71 when I Googled it. So anyway, so they designed this. They just, I guess, threw it together. And then it was mocked up. It's not a real plane, obviously, but they just made like a cardboard one or something and used it for the film, and it looked totally believable. I was like, "Is that a real plane?" So that was kind of cool. So a lot of cool stuff. This was a quality production. No real problems with it. Jennifer Connelly is amazing. She looks great in it, but her character wasn't exactly like multi-layered. She's not going to win an Oscar for this. Not her fault, obviously. Right. But not that much to work with. It was just a lot of close-ups and facial expressions, and like John Hamm was very good, but I guess he was acting in as much as that's not his real personality,
right?
But it wasn't exactly a real show off of his talent. I'm looking forward to seeing his Fletch movie, which I'm sure probably won't be amazing, but I really like the original Fletch, actually both of them. And I'm curious to see what they do to kind of resurrect that. And John Hamm has been funny in some roles, so we'll see.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Could be good.
He's a great actor, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think he does some things very, very well. And that's more than I can say about a lot of actors. Not that I'm a great actor or anything like that, but I think some actors just sort of do a good job not distracting you with their acting. But I think John Hamm actually can bring a lot to a role and can be really engaging and fun and interesting and carry scenes. And that's great. And it was interesting that he's not, I don't know if it's a conscious choice or not, but it doesn't seem like he's had a lot of leads. I don't know if he kind of blew it or it was the pandemic or he had other things going on in his life, but it was interesting to me to see him in a supporting role in this film, especially one that's not you would almost think like a character actor would go in that role
Yeah.
more so than a lead. But I guess that just speaks to the quality of this production, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he
I
was
think
good.
and all the actors I think held their own in
Sure.
this. There was no one
Yep.
distracting, no one who,
Nope.
oh my God, this person's horrible. No, it was
Mhm.
all,
None of that.
it was
Yep.
really well done. The editing I thought was excellent.
Pretty
The
tight.
sound design was great. I mean,
Killed it.
yeah,
Visuals killed it.
great work, Top Gun.
Top notch. Do you think they'll make a sequel? Tom's Cruises.
Or Tom's Cruise. It's kind of set up for one, isn't it?
Well, better question. If this IP landed in your lap, right? Let's say you worked your way up in Scientology.
Yeah.
And they were like, all right, look, this is your big chance. We want to see that you can handle celebrities. Maybe you and Tom have developed a kinship over your shared love of almost killing yourselves. And so they're like, all right, you're our guy. You're the new Scientology head producer.
What do you got?
It's this or Risky Business 2. And you say, I'm going to go with Top Gun 3. What are you going to do with it? Where are you going to go with this? What's your pitch? What's your direction?
The most obvious one would be to follow Rooster and see where he ends up.
Okay, so Top Gun Rooster. Are you going to
Rooster?
Are you going to put Tom Cruise in this one, or is he going to take a back seat, or is he going to be flying planes?
It's a really good question. Because if you wanted to really dial up the characterizations and like the actual drama, you might want to do it as him turning into only the instructor, right? And he doesn't end up flying. And there's like some kind of tension around that, even more so than this movie, where he can't fly. Or
you're going to put Tom Cruise in a Top Gun movie, and he's not going to be like flying the final mission. Is that what you're pitching?
Yeah, but it's not going to fly. No studio.
Is this
the one that doesn't
65? Get made. What year are you making?
I don't know. It's been 36 years since the original, so it might be 2065. Okay, well,
if Tom Cruise can stand up, I'm pretty sure
he's flying.
He's not going to be
no matter what.
Film. Yeah, you're going to have to use like stock footage to kill him in the first opener.
Why don't we just do Top Gun drones? How about that?
Okay,
it's just drones. They're all in a room. And they're flying drones.
They have apps on like
trailers. Yeah, and they're just flying drones on there, and it's just cutting between them
and tilting back and forth.
And it's all grainy drone footage. It's all black and white. So those are the scenes.
Grainy drone footage.
Them just talking to each other,
like muted audio, like crackling noises. And they have like sodas and beers next to them while they're working. Like pause to take a drink, and the drone like dips down.
Exactly. The future, right? Didn't they say that in this movie? That was the future.
Yeah. Highway to the Danger Zone with the like elevator music version, like playing in the room that they're in during the final mission.
In the final missions, the drone flying for like 13 hours over the Middle East. Just in the clouds.
Just doing a big reconnaissance circle.
The beginning starts off with him hitting autopilot and then just sitting back.
To take
having a couple beers, and then he's talking about the other Top Guns. Oh, remember that part in Top Gun Maverick?
It's an elderly Tom Cruise playing the Top Gun video game. I got to beat this level. I can do it. Okay, honey.
But that's a big twist at the end. During the whole thing, you think he's actually doing this stuff, but no, he's in the basement.
Oh man,
I think that's it. I didn't really think about a sequel. I know they opened up for it, but I mean, what are they going to do now?
Did they really though? I feel like they learned their lesson, or Tom Cruise learned his lesson, or whatever, somebody did, not to make these movies and try to set up a sequel. I think they learned that lesson. Like they tried it with Mission Impossible. God help me here. What was the one where they tried to make Jeremy Renner? Was it 4? Where they tried to pass the torch?
Oh yeah, I saw that one. What, Ghost Protocol or something? There's another one. I don't know. I just get the name of the.
Sure. Right. But they've tried that multiple times with these, I don't want to call them fraudulent sequels, but these time gap enhanced sequels where they've tried to bring back the main actor and then like pass the torch, and it doesn't work. I'm sure it's worked once, but I can't think of a single example of when that's worked. So I think they've learned, like, just cut that stuff, don't have like a final scene where Tom's like hey, maybe someday you're ready. Maybe someday you'll be the instructor, or you'll teach the kids a thing or two. And then it's cut to Rooster and it ends. Like they don't even do that much. It's like if the lead actor dies, the property dies, unless somebody comes up with a better idea. Okay, Indiana Jones. Great example.
Oh, yeah.
How many times have they tried to pass the torch? And I think it's a classic example of don't do this. Right. They're going to wheel Indy out. There's another Indiana Jones movie coming out, and it may as well be, Weekend at Bernie's 4.
Didn't he get
right?
injured or something? They had to stop production forever. Like,
you're going to have to be more specific. He's been injured on like every film that they brought, not every, okay, Star Wars, this, like, I'm sure, because he's not an action hero, but they wheel him onto the set and they drag him around like Weekend Bernie style. And now they're using CGI to like de-age and all that, because I hate for this to be on record, because I'm sure I'm going to eat these words, but Indiana Jones is Harrison Ford. He's not the only one, but without Harrison Ford, I really don't think you can sell Indiana Jones, not in the ways they're trying. It's not as easy as just throwing another actor into that role. It's much, much more complicated.
It's iconic.
Or more time has to pass. The actor has to be so far long gone that you can't even pretend like their corpse is, cracking a whip. And if that's the case, if the audience believes even incorrectly that actor could play that role, then that's what they want.
Yeah, I see your point.
They don't care. So I think trying to go do Top Gun Rooster, I think it's a dead end.
Yeah, it may very well be.
Until Tom Cruise is completely retired and elderly, and this actor somehow who played Rooster has done some more films, and if he's well loved and he has his own reputation, not based on this film or not only based on this, and he's done some really great stuff, then you could bring him back like 20, 30 years down the road and maybe do something with it. But if you want to make a sequel, anytime soon, I think it's got to be like another Mission Impossible, or like, whoa, I thought he retired, but he's back, Yeah.
And what would the plot be? I mean, would it be?
Well, those bad guys are back. I'll tell you that much.
They rebuilt the plant. Done.
No. It has to be something different, right? So you've got most of this film. It's a short pitch, right? Tom Cruise is back, number one. Second sentence is, and the enemy's at it again. Third sentence is, has to involve the phrase Top Gun School. And then the fourth sentence is, but what really makes it matter is fill in the blank relationship / heart.
Mad Libs.
And that's your pitch, right? Like, having lost his best friend years ago, and then his new best friend in the last film, Tom Cruise's Maverick has to decide if he's going to make it work with Jennifer Connelly or go back one last time to save
the highway,
his new best friend, or his best friend's kid, or the son of Iceman, or whatever, right? He's got to go back one more time because he's been taken hostage, or not Tom Cruise, but whoever it is taken hostage or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be, it's paint by numbers.
So like Tom Cruise behind enemy lines because his like friend's kid got shot down and now he's being held prisoner.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be something like, oh man, like Iceman's kid has been taken hostage. He's a Marine, or a Marine probably, and or she, whatever, been taken hostage behind enemy lines, and Tom Cruise gets involved again using the status that he's gained after this last mission, and he finds out that their plan is to send drones in, but Tom believes that the drones are going to kill, it's not going to work, and it's going to end up with the death of whatever. So he sets off to prove that it can be done with some kick-ass plane, or the latest, whatever the Navy has flying these days, whenever this film finally comes out, and he has to earn his way back into the cockpit just to prove whatever. And some of the characters from this film are back in supporting roles to play key part in his journey back to whatever. And then ultimately, nope, he doesn't succeed. He's just going to be on the aircraft carrier while they launch the drones, but then a surprise attack by the enemy disables the drones, and Tom has to take off from a short runway and his final mission, and everybody's sure that he's going to die because he's old and it's impossible, and he doesn't even have a wingman because the one wingman is too far away or has to engage in a dogfight, and that's Rooster or whatever,
and it's just
Tom Cruise alone, and he's going to die, but oh my god, the explosion, and he pulls out of it right at the end and he doesn't die, and then oh nope, there's a twist and it looks like he's going to die, but actually just the jet gets destroyed. And in a move that harkens back to the original Top Gun, he survives somehow and he's back on board.
It's the only face I got. That's it.
That was
the end.
What does that even mean?
Well, you don't have to keep saying that.
They're talking about your
good
feelings.
without it.
You're talking about your emotions, Tom.
I don't get the nuance. It's the only face I got.
They're trying to be empathetic and connect with you. They're trying to offer support. It's been an honor knowing you because clearly you cannot connect as a human being. So I'm not going to mess with you.
What are these sounds coming out of those mouths? Weird. All right. Let me put my helmet back on. That was weird.
I don't have feelings because I've gotten rid of my thetans. Stop trying to engage with me.
No one needs feelings. But I like that plot. It brings in the drones.
What else are you
gonna brings do? In Tom. It brings in the solo mission that he can only do, right?
Yep.
The twists and turns.
Yep.
Everyone's worried about. It's a nail biter.
Yep.
Everyone's against it. He has to steal the plane, of course, because someone leaves the keys in the plane. He's like,
oh, to prove it earlier. Yeah, no, I think there should be a scene where they pull the cover off of like a fighter and they have to blow the dust off of it. And then the dust lands on Tom Cruise and then they have to blow the dust off of it.
But they don't think it's Tom Cruise because he stands perfectly still. And they think it's like a mummy or like a museum piece, and then he moves and then he shakes off the dust and then he's back in the cockpit.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think another interesting question, what are the odds that they're going to make a sequel? Obviously, this movie has made a ton of money. It'll keep making money. But I don't know. I think it depends on how much trouble Scientology gets into. What do you think? Do you think they'll make another one?
I don't know. I don't know how this works in terms of like who owns that property. Is it the studio that owns the rights to Top Gun, or is it like an individual producer? I guess that's a big question.
Yeah, there's a lawsuit right now. Some dude wrote an article about the Top Gun school. I guess Paramount, whoever it was, bought the rights to that article and made the movie, the original. And then I believe those rights reverted back to him. And there's a lawsuit where he's suing. He said like, well, you didn't finish the new film until after the rights reverted back to me. So you should have paid me for that. But I guess at this point, regardless of the outcome of that lawsuit, that guy who wrote that article technically owns the rights or part of the rights. So they'd have to write him a big check. But I mean, when's that been an obstacle, right?
Right.
I mean, I guess as soon as Disney buys Paramount or whatever, then the next thing they're going to do is get the rights to Top Gun and create an animated series or something.
Yeah, something.
But yeah, so it's doable, no doubt. There's enough money.
I'm surprised that it's not a series now, or that it has never been made into a series.
How would you do that?
Top Gun school.
Ridiculously expensive. It's just going to be a lot of like muscly people pushing each other around and locker rooms and stuff. Like the drama of their personal life, like they do it with firefighter shows or like the police precinct or whatever. The same concept. Okay.
You know what I mean?
I get what you mean. Yeah.
ER, but this is at the flight school, so it's every episode has the the flying aspect to it, but it's mostly about their personal lives. And
right, but you don't mean as part of this universe or as a reference to these films, you mean just the naval aviator school,
correct?
Right? Yeah. Okay, agree. Yeah, actually, I wonder if they ran into a rights issue, because it is weird that they, maybe it is the expense.
Yeah,
because they're like, a bunch of CGI planes, and we'd have to every week there'd have to be some sort of
You have to put them in the air.
Dogfight.
There's got to be
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Cost prohibitive, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably why. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense that they do
Slam
it.
dunk. It's a
Yeah.
slam dunk. Yeah, for sure. Interesting. All right. So again, you picked it. Final words. Any thoughts about this you didn't cover?
Final words is that it's really a great popcorn flick. So if you're into action movies with a lot of things blowing up and you suspend disbelief about some of the silliness that happens, it's a great ride.
Yeah. Yep. If you want your kids to become fighter pilots or enter the military, you probably want to drag them to this film.
Yep. As most parents do.
This one, put this one to rest.
Oh, good.
For another 35 years.
Until Tom Cruise's Cruises comes out.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care.